The airlock hissed. The survivors stirred under dim red emergency lights. Their bodies ached. Heads pounded. Through cracked helmets and flickering visors, they saw nothing but darkness. One by one they sat up, coughing. Dust floated in the stale cabin air. Outside the viewport, nothing like Earth. No bright sky, no blue water, no green hills. A battered shuttle lay half buried in dark red soil. All around were jagged rock spires like broken teeth reaching up to a hazy alien sky. A thick silence hung over the place, heavy, empty, unwelcoming. The silence pressed on their minds. The commander, Mira, coughed again and tried to steady her voice. "Check supplies," she ordered softly. She pressed a hand to the console. Lights blinked weakly. The air filters had cracked, food rations were meager, and the comm unit, the only hope to contact home, sparked and died when Zane tried to power it up. Their hearts sank. Rescue might take months. Maybe no rescue would ever come. Outside the shuttle, the planet's surface looked dead. Jagged rock, black dust, scarlet soil, faint shimmering airs that distorted the view. Not a tree, not a bush, not a drop of water. Every breath felt heavy, stale. The air tasted strange, bitter, metallic, wrong. One of them, Dara, knelt at the hatch and peered out. She pulled in a shaky breath, half holding her breath. The horizon glowed with dim light, two distant suns low and weak behind dusty clouds. The rocks cast impossible shadows, long and strange, as if they moved on their own. A faint wind stirred. At first almost nothing, a soft hiss. Then a rising groan, like the planet exhaling. Dark dust spiraled across the ground in distant waves. The wind carried a dry smell, like burnt metal and dead ash inside. Some of the survivors trembled. One backed against the shuttle wall, eyes wide. Others exchanged panicked glances. The realization hit. This world did not welcome them. They were strangers in a grave. Myra's voice shook as she spoke. "We need shelter. We need to know if it's safe to go out." She stared at the lifeless landscape, then at her crew. "We stay, repair what we can, try to send a signal." But not everyone agreed. Malik, one of the engineers, spat on the ground. "Stay? We lie down here and wait to die? Let's get out now. Try to move, explore, find something livable." His voice was bitter, harsh in the quiet. Others looked torn. The deserted wasteland seemed to shift with every dust swirl. The long shadows of rock spires bent and twisted in the alien light, as if alive. The planet seemed to breathe around them. Outside the shuttle, the growl of the wind swelled. A distant ridge rattled. Rocks shifted. Dust storms formed on the horizon. Dark clouds roiling, rising fast. The sky trembled under their twin suns inside. Fear settled in. Each breath felt heavy. Every heartbeat echoed in helmets. Shadows danced on walls as lights flickered. No one moved. Silence. Deeper than the planets, more oppressive than the wind. Then a single clatter. A small gear fell from the damaged comm console. Echoes bounced in the metal cabin. Heads snapped toward the sound. Their own equipment, their only tools for survival, seemed to betray them. They felt the emptiness pressing in. They were hurt, broken, lost on a world designed for death. No water, no shelter, no life, only dust, rock, wind. And that wind cold, bitter, unrelenting. Mara stood up, voice steady but low. "We wait for sunrise. Then we go out, search. Maybe there's a cave, a shelter or something. But we move only together. No one goes alone." Nods formed around the room. Eyes searched each other's faces. Fear, uncertainty, but a thread of grim resolve. They had landed here together. If they survived, they had to do it together. Outside, the dust storm rolled in. The horizon blurred. The red soil glowed under strange light. The planet seemed to shift, to breathe, to watch. For now, the humans stayed inside, their breaths shallow, their minds racing. Every heartbeat echoed like a warning. This was not home. This was a death world. And if they wanted to live, they would have to fight the silence, the dust, the wind. And maybe the planet itself. And as the storm's howl rose, the shuttle's door shuddered, a foreboding sound. Darkness pressed, dust scratched at windows, and the survivors braced for what came next. The first step of their horror-struck arrival in a world meant to kill. They woke next morning to a dull, gray light filtering through the cracked visor of the shuttle. Outside, the world looked even harsher than they had first seen. Red dust lay thick over the rocky ground, and strange wind-carried echoes drifted across the barren plain. Myra led the group as they stepped out, boots sinking into brittle black soil. Every step raised faint puffs of dust. Their breath came in shallow gasps. The air felt stale and heavy. The planet felt alive, but not in a good way. It watched. It waited. They kept close together. Zane, the engineer, carried their damaged cum gear in a cracked case. Dara held a half-empty air filter, wrinkling her nose at the dry metallic tang on the wind. Malik scanned the horizon, tense. The rocky spires stretched like broken pillars, the alien sky above low and oppressive. Myra cleared her throat. "We need shelter," she said. "Something to shield us from wind, maybe space to rest, maybe water or air pockets." "Move slow." They followed a low ridge of jagged rock, hoping it might curve into a cave or deep crevice. As they walked, stray dust swirled around them, seeming to drift with purpose, as if guided by unseen hands. Each puff seemed heavier than the last. After a few minutes, Dara stalled. She pointed at a dark shape half buried in dust. It looked like the entrance to a cave, a shallow mouth beneath a jagged overhang. "Maybe shelter," she whispered, voice trembling. The group approached. Zane nudged a fallen rock aside. Inside, the walls were rough and streaked, black stone with red veins. The air was slightly cooler, less dusty. It felt like a relief. A pause from the hellish surface. For the moment, they felt safer. Malik sank down, leaning back on the cave wall, boots dusty. Dara sat beside him, rubbing tired arms. Mira knelt, pressing her gloved hand to the rock wall, feeling its cold hardness. But the relief was thin. The cave smelled of old rock and stale air, and shadows clung in corners. The dark seemed thick, heavy, like something waiting. Zane tried to power up the cum gear again. Flicker, sparks, then silence. He exhaled. Dead. A hush fell over the group. No one had spoken for a moment. The cave swallowed their voices. Then, a distant rumble outside. A faint vibration under their boots. The air shifted. Dust seeped in from the cave entrance. "Storm?" Myra said, voice low. "We're lucky we got here." Outside, the wind cried. The red dust rose in waves, battering the cave entrance. Shadows danced on the walls, twisted by the flicker of dying lights. Every breath felt rough. They fished out their ration packs, dry, tasteless, barely enough for 2 days. It would pressure them to move fast. There was no luxury of waiting, no hope of slow recovery. As night approached. Though night meant little under the planet's strange sky, the wind rose again. Dust scraped across rock. The cave entrance rattled. The world outside seemed to groan. Malik leaned forward, head bowed. "We can't stay long," he said. "If we stay, we suffocate." Dara shivered. "Then what? Go back out there? Without gear? Without water?" Myra looked at each of them. Her face was set, pale in helmet light, but resolute. "We gather what we can. Air, parts, maybe water. If there is water, then we move. We explore. We try to find anything. Life, shelter, tools. We cannot wait. They nodded. Fear curled tight inside their chests, but behind it a fragile spark lit resolve. Before dawn, they prepared. Zane stripped cables from broken consoles. Malik fashioned a makeshift filter mash. Dara kept watch at the cave mouth. The wind outside howled in protest. When they finally stepped out, the world greeted them with a scream of dust and a blinding red haze. Every rock looked sharper, every shadow deeper. The planet felt like a beast ready to strike. They moved slowly, hunched against the wind. Every step was a fight. The red dust scoured their suits. Each breath tasted worse. Their eyes stung. Their hearts pounded. Then, something moved. A flicker of black among the rock spires, too smooth, too fluid to be a rock. Dara froze. Malik froze. Myra signaled, "Stop." They waited. The wind roared. Dust pounded. The shape vanished. No sound. No clue. Only silence heavier than the wind. Peace for a moment, but not safety. They pressed on. Every footfall was cautious. Every glance was wary. The planet did not want visitors. As they reached a narrow pass between two towering rock faces, the sense of being watched closed in. The wind felt closer, heavier, like breath on the back of their necks. Dust curled in spiral patterns, then collapsed abruptly. Myra swallowed hard. "Eyes open," she whispered. "All of us." They moved forward, hearts throbbing, boots crushing brittle stone. The air tasted wrong. The sky above threatened. They were alive for now. Terrified, injured, but alive. And on this death world, alive was everything. Yet they could feel this world was not empty. Unseen things lurked. They had only taken the first step. And now, with every breath and heartbeat, the hunt had begun. Morning light on the death world came sluggish, filtered through dusty red skies. Inside the cave, the survivors stirred. Their faces bore exhaustion, fear, and something deeper, dread. Outside, wind rattled the rock mouth. The planet greeted them again, quiet but dangerous. They moved slowly, stepping out into the harsh world. The red dust clung to their suits. Their boots stirred small puffs of black-red sand with every step. Ahead, jagged spires of rock rose like broken teeth. The alien sky hung low. Every breath tasted stale. Myra paused. Her helmet light flicked and motioned to the group. "Look," she whispered. On the ground ahead, something small glinted under dull light, a thin scrap of paper, half buried in dust. Dara leaned down, brushing dust off with a gloved hand. It was a postcard. Faded ink, smudged, but human handwriting, a name, a date, a short message. The tight group gathered around. Their hearts pounded. Maybe they weren't the first. Maybe someone survived. Maybe someone tried to tell the world what happened here. Hope flickered and fear. Zane crouched beside Dara, mouth dry. Could be from a past mission or victims before us. His voice was low, uncertain. They passed the postcard around. The writing was shaky, hurried. They watch at dusk. The dust moves. No hope. Simple words, but laden with dread. Silence settled. The wind moaned outside. The rocks at their backs felt like jaws ready to snap. Malik broke the quiet, voice bitter. "More postcards?" "That means..." Others came. Others died. He spat dust to the ground. "We are not first, and we might not be last." The group swallowed. Their fear was no longer only about air or dust or hunger. It was about history. It was about consequences. Myra's voice trembled slightly, but she raised it. "We follow any signs. We find what's left. Maybe we learn how to survive, or why we were sent here. She looked at each of them. But we move as one. They agreed. With careful steps, they advanced, watches on high alert. The planet felt alive in strange ways. Every shadow seemed to shift. Every rock face whispered. The wind brought strange echoes, distant rattles, like something moving just beyond their sight. Dust swirled. The world seemed to shift. A pillar of rock cast a long, wavering shadow, as if breathing. They reached a narrow pass between two tall stone ridges. The air here was thicker, heavier. Their suits creaked under pressure. Through the red haze, shapes hinted. Maybe rocks. Maybe something else. Suddenly, a noise. Soft, metallic. Not from their gear. From ahead. They froze. Hearts pounding. Zane raised his hand, signaling halt. No one spoke. Footsteps slowed. The wind died. The world held its breath. Then, a scraping sound. Something large, dragging across rock. Something slow, patient. Dara's hand went to her helmet light, but she didn't turn it on. The group didn't dare. Darkness felt safer than revealing themselves. Silence, thick as dust. Nothing else. But the message had come. They were not alone. They never were. They backed away slowly, keeping eyes and ears sharp. Every breath was a gamble. Every pulse echoed loud in helmets. When they reached the cave mouth again and looked back, the pass was empty, just rock spires and dust. But fear stayed. The planet had shown its first warning sign. Inside the cave, they locked the makeshift door. Their breaths ragged, bodies tense. No one spoke. The postcard rested on a cold rock between them, pale under helmet light. That night, the wind howled louder than before. Dust beat against the rock. Outside, invisible shapes moved. The planet breathed, watched, waited. Myra stared at the postcard for a long time. Then she closed her eyes. We survive. We find truth. We warn Earth. Her voice was soft but full of resolve. They did not know yet whether survival was possible. But now, more than hunger or air or dust, they feared what lurked in shadows. What had left those postcards? What still watched? The Deathworld had claimed its first victims. And the survivors were next. When dawn came, if it could be called dawn under swollen red skies, the survivors gathered their makeshift gear. The air inside the cave was stale. The wind outside a low, constant groan. A sense of calm lingered, but each knew it was only the wrong kind of calm. The cave gave them shelter, but also isolation. The planet outside waited. Industrial scripts, +2. Every writer's resource, +2. Myra led the group back outside, careful steps stirring fine dust. The planet spread wide and empty, but to them it pulsed as a living thing, silent, watching. With each breath, the air burned a little more. With each heartbeat, their anxiety grew. Automated +1. They moved toward a cluster of rock formations that loomed like the bones of some petrified giant. Jagged, sharp-edged stones, half buried in dust fields, pointed against the alien sky. As they approached, Malik squinted. One stone looked too smooth, too deliberate. It bore strange carvings, shallow, like worn claw marks. Or deliberate runes. They stopped. A hush fell. The wind's moan slowed, as if the planet itself was holding breath. Dara brushed dust off the carving. The lines were uneven, jagged. A symbol, a spiral. Nothing like human writing. No date, no name. Just a mark. Someone or something was here before us, Myra said softly. Her voice sounded small against the emptiness. They exchanged uneasy looks. None dared say aloud what they thought. Maybe the planet was once inhabited. Or the carvings belonged to something alive, something hidden. They spread out slowly, boots dragging. Zane scanned with his visor light. but the light bounced off dust motes into dark emptiness. Figures in hazy distance, maybe rocks, maybe movement. Every sense strained. The dry air tasted bitter. The wind carried a metallic whisper. Their suits felt heavy, almost sticky under thin sweat dot as they ventured deeper into the stone skeleton. Shadows grew long, unnatural. The rocks twisted and merged into walls. The sky dimmed behind a dense dust haze. Silence enveloped them. Not comfort, but suffocation. Myra paused beside a narrow crevice between two massive rock slabs. The gap was narrow, barely wide enough for one. The wind inside was weaker, cooler. A strange echo drifted out, a soft scrape, like fingernails on stone. Hearts hammered. They exchanged glances. A chill crept in. Myra swallowed. She gestured forward, small and steady. One by one, they slipped into the crevice. Inside, nearly pitch black. Their visor lights flickered. The dust outside seemed distant. The corridor was tight, claustrophobic. Walls pressed close. Every breath echoed in helmets. Every movement stirred faint echoes. The silence, absolute dot suddenly, a whisper. Barely audible, but alive. A hiss of air. Then a soft skittering sound further down the corridor. They froze dot. No one spoke. They crawled forward. Inch by inch, each step measured, slow. Boots scraped over coarse stone. Dust drifted lazily, settled. Their breathing was loud as sound. Then, the light from Dara's visor flickered. For a moment, shapes danced on the walls. Long, thin shadows. Too many to be their own. Too human to be rock. Shadows with limbs. With fingers. But the light steadied. They vanished. Dara gasped. Malik's hand tightened on a piece of scrap metal they carried. Zane exhaled, misting inside his helmet. Go back? Whispered Dara. Myra shook her head. Voice firm but barely above a whisper. No, we need to see. They pressed on. At the corridor's end, the passage opened into a low cavern. The air here was colder, stale. On the far wall, more carvings. Symbols, spirals, jagged lines. Beneath them, smears of dark red dust. Old, dry. Zane knelt, helmet light close. He traced finger across the smear. It cracked under his glove. Blood, he whispered. A heavy silence. Nothing moved, but the cavern felt alive. The walls seemed to pulse under the visor glow. Then, a rumble. From deep within the tunnel network. Not rock shifting. Something larger. Something alive. They bolted. Not carefully. Rushed, panicked. Hearts pounding. Boots scraping. Dust rising. Behind them, deep echoing roar. The cavern walls shuddered. Rocks fell. The passage began to collapse. They ran. Every breath a burn. Every step a gamble. The narrow corridor squeezed. Dust choked. Shadows chased. They burst out into the open world, scramble, stumble. The red sky greeted them as they fell onto harsh stone. The wind screamed. Dust blinded. They didn't stop until the rock formation lay behind them, shapes swallowed by haze. Only then, knees on ground, gasping for breath, did they realize how close they came. Inside the cave mouth they collapsed, shaking. The carvings on their helmets, dust-covered. No blood on their suits, yet Myra lifted her head, eyes wide behind visor. We are not alone, she said, voice trembling. This planet, it watches, it hides, and we awaken something. Around her, the survivors didn't argue. Fear bound them together tighter. The planet's stones had shown their teeth, faint, but real. They settled inside the cave entrance again, breath shallow, hearts racing. No words, just waiting. Outside, the wind roared. The rock bones cracked somewhere deep. The dust clouds rolled. The Deathworld exhaled. And the survivors waited for the next warning. Daylight, or what passed for it, filtered through the swirling red haze. The survivors emerged from their cave sanctuary, each step heavy. Their helmets rattled softly with each breath. The planet lay before them, silent as a grave, but somehow darker now, as though it had watched them wander and judged what they did. They moved toward the distant ridge where the sky met red dust. Their suits scraped against rocky ground, sending tiny clouds of ash around their boots. The heat made their visors sweat. The air tasted foul. Every breath felt like breathing through thick cloth. Myra paused. She wiped dust from her visor and looked at the horizon. We need to know if there is life, or water, or anything. Her voice was calm but brittle. The group advanced slowly, step by step. Their eyes scanned every rock, every shadow. Dara's hand stayed close to the makeshift tool they fashioned, a welded piece of metal that might be used as a weapon or a knife. The planet answered them with silence. But silence on a Deathworld was not peace. It was a trap. Suddenly, far ahead, a shape, subtle, a flicker in the dust. For a moment, the shape had the outline of something alive. Fragile, slender, hunched perhaps. Then it vanished as quickly as it came, swallowed by dust. Heart stuttered. Zane stopped mid-step, visor light trembling. "Did you see that?" He whispered. No one answered. They all looked, trying to see in the shifting dust. The wind picked up, rising low and mournful, like a warning. They crouched among rocks, backs to a craggy wall. The wind cut across the plain. For long seconds, they held their breath. But the world remained still. Myra shook her head. Maybe dust. Maybe heat. Could be mirage. But her voice lacked certainty. They pressed on. The ridge grew closer, a jagged rise where black rock met red air. As they climbed, the ground beneath them turned coarse, brittle. The dust here was heavier, thicker. Clinging to boots, suits, visor glass. In the climb, Dara slipped. She caught herself just before falling, but the jolt sent her suit creaking. She froze, eyes wide. The others rushed to help, but before they reached her, the rock cracked. A small shard broke off under her boot. A thin line widened across the ground. The shard fell. But the crack remained. It crawled outward, snake-like, as if the planet itself was alive and angling to trap them. They stared, frozen. The crack spread faster than natural rock should. Dust hissed between the fissures. The air vibrated. Then, a low rumble. From deep beneath the ground. The ridge trembled. Loose stones rattled. A cascade of pebbles slid down on their side. Fear exploded. Malik screamed, sharp, sudden. Zane grabbed Dara, pulled her back. Mira pushed against the wall as debris showered. The ridge collapsed. A wave of rock and dust tumbled down, blocking the path ahead and behind. The world staggered under their feet. When the dust settled, if settling was possible, they realized the ridge blocked both exit and entrance. They were trapped. Silence returned, but heavier, more threatening. No words were spoken for long minutes. Each breath sounded loud in helmets. The dust clung. Their boots scraped. The planet groaned. Mira stood straighter than before, voice low but firm. We go deeper. No one argued. There was nothing else. They walked along the fallen ridge, base until they found a narrow gap, just wide enough for one person at a time. The wind howled outside, but inside the gap, air was still. Their boots echoed. The walls pressed close, oppressive. Inside, the gap opened into a dark corridor slanted downward. It smelled of damp dust. It felt colder. The dim glow from their visors revealed walls streaked with darker dust, almost black, but with reddish undertone. As they moved, They passed jagged stones carved with the strange symbols they'd seen before. But now, these carvings looked fresher, sharper, like recently etched, as though someone or something had walked here not long ago. Dara stopped. She knelt and touched the ground. Her glove brushed something moist. She looked up at Mira, eyes wide. The gloved hand came back stained, dark. Blood, she whispered. The word echoed in the narrow tunnel, louder than outside storms. Panic twisted the air. Every sense screamed. The smell metallic, heavy. The walls cold. The passage too quiet. The wind seemed distant, powerless. They moved again, slower, more careful. Every heartbeat felt like a drum. Their breaths puffed small clouds in their helmets. The darkness closed in. Then a noise, soft, almost shy. A rustling. A scraping deeper in the tunnel. Something moved. Something not human. Something too big to be a mere animal. They froze. Silence. Then. A whisper of wind. Too soft to be wind. Closer than air. Closer than breath. In the visor glint. At the edge of vision, a figure. Thin. Bent. Pale against the dust. It moved, slowly. Limbs too long, joints wrong. It blinked, or its eyes glowed, faintly. Mira raised her hand. Light on. The beam cut through dust and darkness. The figure's outline quivered. It darted away, almost instantly, melting into the rock shadows. A gasp. A shiver. Malik dropped to his knees, breathing hard. Zane hit the wall for balance. Dara hugged her makeshift tool. Mira swallowed hard. We didn't awaken survivors, she said quietly. We awakened the dead. They turned and ran, stumbling, panicked. Dust swirled. The corridor's walls felt like jaws closing. Every footstep echoed. The passage seemed to stretch forever. Behind them, scraping, shifting, footsteps faint but real. Growing louder as they fled, they burst out onto open rocky ground. The sky glowed dim through dust haze. Their helmets hissed heavy breaths. They didn't look back. Not once. Night came, under twin suns that never truly set. The red dust storm rose again, a wall of choking dust and screaming wind. Inside their small shelter, the broken shuttle half buried in dirt, they huddled. Boots off, helmets raised slightly for more air. Eyes hollow, hearts pounding. The blood-stained glove lay on a cracked console, visor light flickering over it. The carvings, the tunnel, the figure, none were safe. None were far. Myra stared into the flickering red dark beyond the window. Her face was grim. We survive, she repeated. But not by hope. By fear. By fight. And as the storm raged outside, the planet whispered its next move. Cold dust settled over the broken shuttle as the survivors rested, but none slept. The wind outside groaned and rattled the hull. Inside, the air tasted bitter and stale. Their shared fear bound them together, but now it pulled like poison in their minds. Mira sat near the entrance hatch, staring out into the red haze. The others sat in a loose circle nearby. Zane checked the makeshift air filter again. Malik paced, boots scraping on metal floor. Dara held the bloody glove in her lap, eyes wide and distant. Silence pressed on them like heavy rock. At first, talk was quiet, whispered worries, half-understood fears. But as hours passed, tension grew, not only from danger outside, but from what lay inside hearts. Malik broke the silence suddenly. His voice was sharp, angry. We came here together, but not everyone's idea of survival is the same. He tossed the glove. Where it landed raised a small puff of dust. Some of us already think only of themselves. Zane looked up, startled. What are you saying? He asked. Malik's eyes glinted under visor light. I'm saying maybe we don't all deserve to survive. Maybe some of us are just waiting to die, or worse, betray. He paused, his fist clenching. You saw the carvings. You saw the blood trail. We nearly died trying to run. Maybe some of us are more dangerous than this planet. A chilling silence followed. The shuttle's metal groaned softly. The red dust storm outside CLATTRED. Dara shifted. We don't know who or what we saw in those tunnels, she said softly. Maybe it was a creature. Maybe it was someone alive. Or not alive. Mira stood. Her voice was calm but cold. Now is not the time to turn on each other. She looked at each face, visor reflection dancing. We are all we have. But maybe we need rules. A plan. Moloch snorted, bitter. Rules? Plan? On this rock, with no air, no safe ground? Maybe survival means stealing. Take what you need before someone else does. His words hung like poison. Zane's hand shook slightly as he tried to hold back. That's madness. If we tear ourselves apart, we die. Faster, but seeds of distrust had already sprouted. During the long night, they took watch in shifts, but whispers started. Who used more air? Who drifted near the cave mouth too long? Who looked at others' rations when no one saw? At dawn, or what passed for dawn under the red haze, catastrophe struck internally. The air filter unit failed completely. The recycled air turned stale fast. Panicked. Moloch accused Zane. You were fiddling with it too long. You wasted time. Zane shot back. I was trying to fix it. You were nowhere helping. Dara backed away, eyes fearful, clutching the bloody glove. Stop. This isn't the time. We need to work together. Myra intervened, voice heavy. Enough. Then she paused. Her visor light flickered. We sleep. Tomorrow, we move. We go deeper. But from now on, no secrets. Open checks. Trust, or we all die. That night, each lay awake. Every sound, a groan of the hull, the shifting dust, distant rock grinding, felt amplified. The solitude between them was more terrifying than the cold outside dot in the darkness. One of them rose quietly. Moloch. He crept to Zane's pack. Fingers brushed, not just for parts, but for something else. A ration pouch, a spare filter, maybe even tools. Suspicion made the shadows dance, but the plan changed. Moloch paused. He looked back at sleeping forms. Something in him? Guilt? Fear or pragmatism? He closed the pack, stepped away, and quietly sat. No one noticed. But trust cracked. Maybe permanently. Next morning, they left the shuttle. The broken air filter gone. They knew time was short. Every breath outside burned their lungs. But inside the shuttle, the stale air threatened suffocation. They climbed over jagged red rock toward a distant ridge that might shelter them. Each step echoed hollow. Moloch walked last, eyes darting. Dara kept close by Myra. Zane lagged, checking filters. The scar of betrayal hovered between them, silent, heavy, poisonous. As they climbed, the planet watched. The dust swirled. The rock cast long, shifting shadows. And among them, not just the fear of a creature or alien world, but fear of each other. The biggest danger now, human fragility and extremity. And on that death rock world. When trust fractures, sometimes that kills more than alien claws. The survivors left the broken shelter under a dull red sky. Their hearts were heavy, minds full of fear and mistrust. The world outside felt colder now, more alive. Every breath tasted like ash. Every step echoed in empty dust. Myra led. Zane followed, clutching their last working air filters. Dara and Moloch brought up the rear. No one spoke. The silence pressed on them, hard and heavy. They aimed for a distant ridge, a hope. Maybe some sign of life, or ruins, or water, or help. But the ridge seemed to shift as they approached. The dust haze made shapes dance. The rock spires looked like giants leaning over them, waiting Dot as they climbed. The ground beneath cracked softly. Faint, thin lines spiderwebbed across stone. Their boots raised puffs of black-red dust. The wind gusted. Their suits trembled. Dot suddenly. A rumble. Dot the ridge ahead shuddered. Stones loosened. A heavy slab of rock, perched precariously above the slope, cracked free. Time slowed for a moment, their eyes wide, hearts frozen. Then the slab fell. Myra shouted, "Run!" They scattered. Zane and Malik pushed ahead. Dara stumbled, coughing in dust. Myra turned back, dragging Dara. The rock slab smashed against the slope behind them, dust exploding. The world turned red. When the dust cleared, the ridge was gone. Rocks blocked their path forward and back. The climb turned into a cage. Their escape route destroyed. Heavy breathing. Panic rising. Dara scraped her visor with a shaky hand. We're trapped," she whispered. Zane pounded his fist on stone. "No, must be another way." Malik shook his head, eyes wide. "We're doomed." Myra steadied her voice. "There may be small gaps among rocks. Maybe a tunnel, something. We keep moving." They clung together and searched the rubble. The broken rocks were jagged, sharp. Dust choked the air. Each breath burned. Their suits strained. Then Dara found a narrow gap. Too tight for two, but perhaps just enough for one. She brushed dust aside. The opening was small, dark. "We try." She nodded. First, Zane slipped in, metal scraping against rock. Then Myra. Malik hesitated, fists clenched, then followed. Dara stayed last. Inside, low and narrow tunnel. The air was stale, thick. Their visors did little to pierce darkness. The walls pressed close. The only sound was their ragged breathing and distant rock drips. They moved slowly, inch by inch. Every step echoed. Shadows danced. The darkness felt alive. Suddenly, a sharp click. The ground trembled. Loose stones cracked above. Rock shifted. Zane froze. Mira's heart hammered. "Keep moving," whispered Mira, but her voice was tight. Then, the light. A thin shaft of pale red from a crack above. They scrambled toward it, hope burning. Malik climbed first, pushing stones aside. He crawled through the narrow gap, emerging onto a dusty ledge at the edge of a ravine. Mira climbed after. Zane and Dara followed. They crouched, chests heaving. Below them, a drop, deep and dark. Across the ravine, more jagged rock, twisted into a bleak spire under swirling red dust. The air was stale. The wind groaned low. They were alive. For now. But escape felt farther than ever. Myra looked to her crew. Zane, Dara, Malik, eyes wide, haunted. "We stay together," she whispered. "We move at first light. We go for the spire. Maybe there is shelter or signal, or maybe a way off this hell." No one argued. They nodded, though fear and pain etched their faces. As night fell. Though night meant little under the planet's strange skies, they huddled on the ledge. The wind howled. Dust beat like rain. Every sound felt like a warning. Dara gazed at the dark ravine below. "We lost the shuttle. We lost our route. Everything we knew." Her voice trailed off. Mira swallowed. "Yes, but not hope. Not while we breathe." Malik leaned back, staring at distant dust storms rolling under dim twin suns. "Maybe we're fools," he said softly. "But I'd rather die trying than die waiting." Their breaths hissed in helmets. The planet sighed around them. Rocks far below shifted. Shadows moved in the dust. Silence settled. Heavy, watchful. Each of them closed their eyes for a moment, holding grief, fear, regret, but also something fiercer. determination. They were not safe. Not by far. But they were alive. And for now, that was everything. Their escape attempt had failed partially. Their path had collapsed. Their belief shaken. Their fear deeper. But the spire ahead, the unknown, beckoned. And under blood-red skies, with dust storms rising, the survivors prepared for their final daring. Not just to run, but to survive. To outlast the Deathworld. The last of the red dust settled like ash in the air. The survivors, battered, hollow-eyed, barely breathing, perched on the narrow ledge above the ravine. Their suits were torn, their supplies nearly gone. The twin suns hung low, the sky a dull red smear through shifting dust. Myra stood first, scanning the ragged spire across the chasm. It looked like broken bone reaching into the sky. She squinted, visor light dancing on scarred rock. That spire. Maybe there's a chance, she said, voice hoarse. Maybe we find shelter. Maybe something salvageable. Maybe a way out. Zane, Dara, Malik each nodded. Their faces hidden behind scratched visors, but the fear was raw, flickering like the dying console lights they once trusted. They began their descent, carefully, slowly, toward the ravine's edge. Every step shook under them. Stones crumbled, dust sifting through cracks. The wind howled low, carrying the taste of ash and old blood. As they reached the bottom, the rock formation between them and the spire loomed. The gap was narrow and steep. They climbed, one by one. Their lungs burned. Their muscles screamed. Dust choked them. Every breath fought. Halfway up, a dull rumble. The ground trembled. A shower of small stones rattled loose. Zane slipped for a heart-stopping second, but Dara grabbed his arm. The others froze. Time warped. Then nothing. The spire held. The climb continued, trembling hands holding onto jagged rock, boots scraping brittle stone, hearts pounding. At the top, the edge of the spire, they collapsed, clutching the rim. Below was the chasm's black mouth, swirling with dust storms. Above, dull red sky. Around, endless hardened rock. Myra looked at her crew. We made it. Her voice cracked, but held. Now, we send a signal. We tell Earth. We send back the postcards. We warn them. Zane rummaged through a cracked pack. He pulled out scraps, wires, broken circuits, part of the comms unit they couldn't fix before. He worked quickly, fingers shaking. Sparks cracked. A light flickered. Dara knelt beside him, passing a clean strip of metal from the shuttle hull to fashion an antenna. Malik held watch, eyes scanning the swirling dust below and above. Finally, a beep. The makeshift device groaned to life. A faint signal pulsed, weak but alive. Zane keyed the transmission. Data stream of postcards, images of the planet, coordinates, name of the survivors, last known air filter levels, warning. Deathworld. Avoid. They waited in silence. The wind died for a moment. The red dust paused. The planet held its breath. Then, static, faint. Then a crackled response. Garbled, distant. Maybe Earth, maybe rescue, maybe nothing. The signal faltered. But it had sent. Mira gazed at the horizon. Even if no one comes, we tried. We warned. Night, or whatever passed for night, fell under alien skies. The twin suns dimmed behind thick dust clouds. They huddled together, watching the signal device blink weakly. Dust drifting in shifting beams of visor light. Below, rock shadows writhed. In the distance, wind howled. The planet exhaled,